Walt, you're in London. I just got back from Silicon Valley. We're on the road. We're always learning about autonomy. Well, you and I are on the road learning about autonomy. The PR spin machines inside autonomy companies were revving up. While they were revving up, Waymo was actually doing the work and expanding. Let's start with London. How is it? How are you? I missed you.
And Waymo, I saw doing the work in London. I didn't see Wave. I saw Waymo doing work in London. I had a lovely time in London. I'm currently in the Cotswolds. And to get to the Cotswolds, I had to drive several hours, which for me is now disconcerting because, as you know, Grayson, and as our listeners know, the vast majority of my miles driven are fully FSD on my Tesla at home. So it was very odd not only to be driving again, but to be driving on the wrong side of the road, or I guess here they would say left, right. Who knows where I am, but I got here safely for the night. I'm in the Cotswolds.
That's good to know. Well, you were doing that. I was busy in Silicon Valley because in London they call it the boot. So I opened up the back of the Waymo boot. I tried to see what compute was in there. All the alarms started going off. So
What?
to the listeners and viewers, don't try and open it up.
Oh no, you try to, but the trunk, I've put in the back of the Jag, I've opened the trunk and put my baggage in there. Did you go into the sub trunk of the trunk?
I tried. I wanted to be the inspector. Wee woo. Oh boy, down it goes.
Did they revoke your app access, or what happened? Did anyone get on the live camera? Or did anyone from the Philippines tap in and say, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing?"
Nobody tapped in, and the good news was I wasn't using my Waymo account, so that's a little trick there.
So now you were talking, I think, this week about getting highway access. Was that in the Valley, or was that back in Florida?
So we got highway access is coming here in Florida, not activated yet, but Waymo was very kind, granted me highway access, and to Waymo, a huge thank you. They gave me SFO access. And you know me, Mr. Curmudgeon, when it comes to things. I have the Walt in me comes out with certain situations, and I was able to experience it at SFO. It was really interesting. Well, I have to tell you, so flew United, and we were the second gate in the United Concourse. I timed it. I said, okay, I got to do my field work. 19 minutes gate until the time I was in the Waymo. I got to say, it wasn't that bad. That's me, who doesn't like to go far, is saying it wasn't that bad.
Wait a minute. So the person that on this very podcast has bitched and moaned about wanting curb access, you walked to, I guess, where was it? Was it the Kiss and Fly, or was it somewhere closer?
No, the Kiss and Fly would have been better. It was the rental car center. So I had to go where, if you're going to go into the Dinosaur, that's a human-driven car, you go straight, or if you're going to go get on the tram, you go right up the stairs. So I had to ride the airport tram to the rental car center. And lo and behold, so I'm like, oh, this is easy. This is great. So I go down 2 floors. I wanted to get some exercise. The escalator was broken to go down the last 3 floors. No sign, though. Pain in the butt, but still well worth it.
So if you're willing to get on the tram, then if they get to that garage where Uber typically picks up, not the Uber Black, but the regular Uber, I assume now you're good with that. And that can really help Waymo if they can get into that garage. And is there anything about what you saw at that rental car place that's different or easier that would say, like, oh, well, it's clear they can do the rental car company where they couldn't do the garage?
So putting on my Walt hat here for a moment, I timed it. So just to walk to the Uber and Lyft is 12 minutes. So it's an additional 7-minute walk tram ride. What Waymo had, which was really nice, they had a dedicated curb. There was a sign, autonomous vehicle pickups branded for Waymo. No traffic. Zzz, right out going by United, where they do all of the cleaning and refurbishment of the airlines. And years ago, United hosted me there. A lot of cool stuff happens there. But right onto the 101, very little traffic. So once you got there, massively convenient. Getting there, a pain in the neck.
Well, that's fine, no traffic. But I mean, Waymos can handle traffic. Everyone's been in a Waymo that can handle traffic. So again, my question to you is there anything that you sense is more complex about the garage versus the rental car agency? Or is the issue continues to be not about a Waymo capability, but really more about the powers that be restricting Waymo from that closer access where the Uber and Lyft pickups are?
Politics. At the end of the day, it's politics. The Waymo, in my opinion, can handle where the Uber and Lyft pickups are. the Waymo can handle curbside, it's entrenched interest in politics that's stopping it. And I'll go on here and I will make a very bold prediction. If and when Waymo is allowed to pick up curbside at SFO, within the first 12 months of active service, Waymo will take 30% market share at the airport from Uber and Lyft.
Yeah, I'm not as I don't think curb is as important as you think it is. I think if they can get out of the garage, they can get to 15-20% share pretty quickly, and but at least they're getting closer. I don't know if Kiss and Fly is closer than this rental car company or what, but still getting held back, which is I think important, which we talked about last week, and important for our listeners to consider in terms of the impact that Waymo has had on Uber and Lyft to date in this market. They're still tying their hands behind their back because of politics more than anything. Let's move on to the ride itself. How much did it cost you? What was the, where did the car drive? I assume you're on a highway there, right? So you had to get on the highway there. How did that whole ride go?
So my ride was $89.92 to be exact. So it was SFO down to Mountain View. I looked at Uber X was roughly $60. Comfort was around $90. SUV was around $120. So going from SFO down to Mountain View, roughly I was going about a mile from Google's headquarters, to put that there into perspective. So as I said, Waymo was very kind and granted me highway access, and I had no idea what to expect, but I had the GoPro there, and we'll play some video here now for you of that. It was a smooth experience. It was a wonderful experience. The vehicle went in all three lanes. The vehicle did not go in the HOV lane. It went all the way to the left. It went all the way to the right, all three lanes. And the real interesting thing was the Waymo is in the far left lane next to the HOV lane. And there's this individual who must have been going 90 plus miles an hour, cuts the Waymo off. The Waymo honked at it. It was pretty neat. Great experience.
Come on. Hold on. The Waymo honked?
Yes.
Do you have that on video? I think that's the first I've ever heard of any autonomous car actually making a sound. Are you sure about this?
I'm 100% sure. I was busy. Your partner, Brandon, would be very proud. I was playing some 97 Fish. I had it blasting. I thought it was Trey on the guitar. And lo and behold, no, it was the car.
You might be breaking news here, Grayson. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone having their Waymo hit the horn. Let's go back up, though. In terms of the feel, we've both been in FSD, most recent software, Mad Max mode. Lane changing, hesitation, how would you compare it? I know it's not back-to-back, but how would you compare it to the FSD on the highway?
It's more conservative, especially if you're in hurry mode or if you're in Mad Max mode. The Waymo is much more conservative, a lot less lane changes, but from a driving comfort perspective, just as equally comfortable. If you were to go ride in an FSD in the similar settings to the Waymo, I don't think you'd be able to tell from a comfort standpoint. Extremely comfortable ride. And it was just refreshing of not having to deal with an individual in the vehicle and you're there by yourself in this little cocoon. It was a magical experience.
What about speed? Did it go over the speed limit? Under? Where was it? Where were you pacing at on this ride on the highway?
The California Highway Patrol is probably loving Waymo. Well, it did not go 1 mile an hour above the speed limit. It obeyed the speed limit perfectly.
All right, I don't like that. It's okay to go a little bit above the speed limit. In some cases, it's safer to do it, but good info. That is great info. I can't believe you just delivered all that info, especially with the honking horn without putting the Inspector Clouseau hat. So if I had my clappy hat here in the Cotswolds, I would say, well done, sir. Brilliant. And lovely.
I'll give you an honorary clappy.
And a tip of the bitters to you.
What I realized more than anything of riding around in the Waymo vehicle this week in and around Mountain View in Silicon Valley and having highway access, this is the future. The one thing that Waymo has to overcome from an operational standpoint, drop off and pickups. Had some challenging incidents. We had a dinner challenging incidents around drop off and pickup. But I decided I wanted to go stretch my legs, and I went to one location over by Stanford University. There was a dedicated Waymo drop-off and pickup. So it's something that they still have to overcome, but you realize you don't want to go back. You get used to the experience. And on the pricing standpoint, because we get a lot of feedback about that, the Waymo on average was more. What I did notice, and I don't know if this is because I don't use Uber anymore, 20% off your ride, 15% off your ride, slashing prices. Because if the Uber discount was not in my app, it would be on par with Waymo. But Uber is offering me discounts because I was comparing them. And I still went to the Waymo because I want that consistent experience that Waymo offers.
So you're in, the Valley, San Fran, heart of technology. There's Waymo's not the only potential opportunity there. Did you tap into that Tesla Robotaxi app? And how did that go?
Yes. You know me. I want to try everything. I'm a kid in a candy store when I'm in the Valley. Oh, I got to try. And I was going, I got in there and I had some free time and I wanted to go get some really good, authentic Chinese food. And I was like, oh, great. Let's take Robotaxi now. Let's try it. It was a 32-minute wait. Can't do that. Okay, so I take the Waymos there in 5 minutes. I come back from the Chinese restaurant to go back to the hotel. Vehicle unavailable. Try it again. Another time, 27-minute wait. I couldn't try it because I think the shortest wait was 26 minutes. It was a short wait. And if you look at Robotaxi Tracker, this says 244 vehicles in the Bay Area. But I can't use the service if I have to wait 25 plus minutes.
I don't know. I just don't understand the whole point of this. Like, just get the technology, get the driver out, and like, what's the point of this? I mean, do they need the extra miles with someone in there? And like, if you're not really doing it, if it's a 30-minute wait, I mean, I just don't get it in terms of what they're doing in California.
But what I did see was really cool over in Palo Alto by the Tesla engineering office. I saw a cybercab mirrorless testing on public roads.
I hope it's mirrorless. Was there a wheel in there?
I cannot confirm that. I'll be right now here. I'll post a photo right now and we will let our audience determine that. I cannot make that clarification if there was or there wasn't, but for the audience, please let us know. It was cool to see it though.
There was a human in there though, right? So a human driving a mirrorless car, is that what we're led to believe?
There was.
I don't understand how that's allowed in California, but
you know what else I saw? I saw a Zeekr with no human testing by Alphabet's headquarters, and then sure enough on X, Waymo goes, oh hi. I go, no, Zeekr.
Yeah, how dare you? It's not a Zeekr, it's an oh hi. Why don't you just call it a Geely? Let's just skip over the Zeekr and call it a Geely. What about our friends at Nuro? Were you able to see any of their cars out and about?
So Nuro was very kind to host us at Nuro. We went there, we saw their new Lucid Gravity. Saw all the components, all the componentry, and got a complete walk through of how they're building it. And then, so Rob and I are on our way to go meet with the team at Lucid. And so what do? We see a car we've never seen before. We pull on the side of the road. We get out our cameras. Wow, what's this Lexus? There was a black Lexus cruising around Mountain View with hardware that looked familiar. Lo and behold, we're coming out and Nuro says, okay, guys, time for a ride. We went for a ride in a black Lexus. Nuro is testing on a black Lexus with their hardware. Comfortable ride. They're making a lot of really good progress. And for the audience, I'll give you a little tease. There's something big coming at Nuro and not what you think. So stay tuned for that.
Well, the last time I was at Nuro, I think they had their stack on a Toyota. So, I mean, they could buy anything, right? I mean, that's the whole point of this in terms of Nuro, their opportunity to partner with any of these OEMs. And you can slap that equipment on any car, I suppose, with some modifications, and then over time, expand to get more OEMs and build it in. So glad to hear that Nuro is still progressing. What about, like, did you take a taxi? Did you take an Uber? Did you take a Lyft? Or did you just too much time in the variety of autonomous opportunities to not even bother with old school?
I did old school back to the airport because I wanted to see if I was right about the experience, and it was horrible. And next time I'm never doing it again. It's over. Every time I go to San Francisco, which I will be there next month, and I will tease for the audience, we are filming a podcast in a prototype, and it is not a vehicle. We are filming live on location next month, so stay tuned for that. And I'm using Waymo.
With what company? Are you not disclosing, or are you just teasing? You're just teasing something.
All I'm going to say is that it's a prototype that goes in the air, not on the ground, and we will be filming inside of that, yes.
In the air? Uh-oh. Oh, be safe, Grayson. I don't know about these. I don't know if I'm quite on board with the air taxis yet. Those batteries. It's going to take a lot of battery power to go up and down. Just make sure they have enough battery to get you back down safely. I need you on the weekly podcast. The weekly podcast, by the way. What else? Anything else in Silicon Valley?
Yes, you're right about weekly, and we do this weekly in Road to Autonomy. We're going to start doing more on-site stuff this year, which we do with Autonomy Markets, more on-site stuff. Yeah, so that's cars, and then I went and visited some friends, which we'll be doing a special podcast to them for the air. So stay tuned for that. That will be filmed on location. And I went and saw our good friends over at Kodiak. Don Burnett was very kind, hosting me at Kodiak. They do these events called Signal. I was honored to be the speaker, so thank you to the 150 plus individuals that showed up. It was a lot of fun. And I went for a ride in the Kodiak truck. They're making a lot of progress.
So you generated the noise for the Signal event. Is that what I'm hearing? Did you say anything controversial? Did you get anyone like pushing back on you at this event, or was it just kind of you spewing your themes without any pushback from the audience? Hopefully someone in that audience can learn from some of the pushback I've given you over the years. Did that happen at the Signal event?
It was a very good event. What did happen? Well, two things happened. I'm very proud to say thank you to the wonderful individuals friends at KPMG. Walt, they showed up in an Autonomy Markets t-shirts. They had them on. It was the coolest thing ever, the inspector shirts. They had them on, and everybody said to me, "Where's Walt?" I said, "What am I, chopped liver? Where's Walt?"
Exactly. I mean, I think that's great. And, for those that don't know, maybe you're listening to it on a podcast, go to the YouTube channel, get a link, buy yourself an Autonomy Markets t-shirt. And we would obviously love to see you send in those pictures. Maybe we'll flash pictures of anyone that sends a picture of themselves in an Autonomy Markets t-shirt on the podcast. So productive trip. Did I miss anything? I mean, holy cow, were you there all week? What was going on?
I packed things in. I was there for a couple of days, but I do want to highlight the ride that I took in the Kodiak truck. We went through some really interesting turns around these Cloverfield turns they call them in California. The Kodiak driver is progressing at a rate that I do not think a lot of individuals appreciate. It's truly, truly impressive from a technology standpoint. And I also want to highlight, everybody knows this is happening. I'm allowed to talk about this. It's really cool. The compute in the cabin is shrinking. So remember the old days, you go in an autonomous truck, well, it's high as the ceiling. It's getting much smaller now. And as it gets smaller, the drivers continue to progress and get better and better. And I got to say, I walked away from Kodiak thoroughly impressed. So thank you, Don, Jennifer, Dan, and the whole team.
I mean, that's what I noticed about a lot of them. I mean, we saw that with May Mobility. They have all the compute in that front passenger seat. Obviously, on the trucks, it was massive, noisy, windy. And I think that's why they had to have those big cabs in order to have all that compute in there. So it's good to hear that, that was able to be shrunk down a bit more. So I'm sure that's just a part of the process over time.
It's staying on the shrunk. You're in London. The roads are shrinking over there. They're small, they're tiny, and you see Waymos. How many Waymos did you see? What did you notice? And were they behaving and driving on the opposite side of the road like they're supposed to?
Well, first I want to go back to your past comments. This is what I do with Rich Greenfield on the Lightshed podcast. Sometimes you say something and I have to correct it. Sorry. I believe you meant a clover leaf off ramp. I think you said Cloverfield, which is, I think, a horror film. Cloverfield.
So you want to stay in the Rich theme? I'll give you a horror. Look what's happening in Hollywood now. That's a horror situation.
Yes, that is definitely a horror type situation. I'll give you another Cloverfield horror situation, which kind of ties into Waymo, a Google company. For those of you that follow me on Twitter, and if you don't, please do, at Walt Lightshed, TMT. I'm over here in London, right? And every time I go to my Chrome to open up a website, since it's the mommy state, you got to like cookies. I accept the cookies. I'm constantly accepting the cookies because of all the disclosures. It drives you nuts. Anyway, so I go to Gemini, and Gemini's like, basically, I forget what the exact wording is, but basically says like, do you know that, a human can actually look at your prompt? And I'm like, what? That doesn't sound right. Let me toggle that off. I go to try and toggle it off, and it turns out you have to basically turn off your chat. So no chat that you would have with Gemini would get saved. That's the only way it works. So I did that, deleted all my chats. By the way, that doesn't save you, because even after you delete it, they're still saved for 3 years. And again, a human, like you could say, like it's anonymized, but if the human is reading it and you wrote something in there about yourself, they can obviously read it about you and identify who you are. I would also add an addendum here. I don't know. They talked about contractors potentially getting this. I don't know where these contractors are. Hopefully it's not like Waymo where it's going to some foreign country. So someone in the Philippines is reading my Gemini things. Anyway, so I turned this off for a couple of days, and now like Gemini is completely useless because like you don't want your chats going away. You need to refer back to them. Give me that bolognese recipe, whatever it is, and go back to them. So public service announcement. I know this is like kind of a slight divergence from Autonomy Markets. Just know that when you're in Gemini, and I'm sure most of these other AI things, that as they're training the data, if you're not on an enterprise account, which most people aren't, they can basically, a human can actually read it. So that's a bit of a Cloverfield story for me. Sorry for the divergence on that.
That is a good point. I'll continue on Walt's PSA. So I run enterprise accounts for all the LLMs, and you are right. There is a big difference between the personal to enterprise. To our listeners and viewers, you can learn a lot by reading the terms of service, and sometimes you might even get spooked. And as Walt said, you get a horror movie.
Well, and also it's also kind of ironic. I'm sitting here complaining about mommy state alerts, and I'm guessing that the only reason I got that alert in my Gemini is because I'm like geolocated here. Anyway, let's move on to Waymo. So I'm in a black taxi, which I prefer. I did take Ubers here. I was in a black taxi. I prefer these guys, even if the line says to go one way, because I'm always tracking on my Google Maps and it says the road's closed. These black taxi drivers are like, know when roads are closed and not. And that's the best way, I think, in London. Anyway, I see this Waymo, obviously, and which I posted on Twitter, now called X. 2 people in the front seat. Obviously has all the sensors, and the guy's like, the taxi driver's like, well, the sensors are obviously going to come off. They're just mapping. I'm like, no, dude. Like, that's what it's going to look like. And then there's a kind of the back and forth of like, it'll never work in London. I'm like, well, it's kind of working right there on the opposite side of the street where most people didn't think that could happen. Well, it won't work in traffic. Then we had some fun talking about like when you go through certain areas of London where you're surrounded by 50 people, what are they going to do? I'm like, well, in California, sometimes when you're surrounded by 50 people, they end up on the top of the car ripping the sensors off. So those things will happen from time to time. Doesn't mean the service won't happen. This driver, great guy, was not convinced. I think the 2 highlights were when he's like, well, what is this technology company? Where are they based? I'm like, well, it's Google. And then he's like, oh, shit. Because I think he just kind of assumed it was some random tech company that would run out of money and not be able to develop it. So I think he got very quiet after that. And the other just all-time quote, which I think I heard on a podcast recently, someone say the same thing, is the quote was, who are you going to talk to? If you're in this car alone, who are you going to talk to? I was tempted to say that maybe sometimes people would like some peace and quiet, or maybe they'll get on their phone or they can Zoom with someone on the screen, but I did not, and I agreed with him and said, yes, there's always going to be great, just like Uber, I think has much stiffer competition in London because of these great black taxis that exist there and their knowledge that they have. Waymo will have incremental issues, but it was great to see Google making progress in London already.
It is. I'm looking forward to going to London at the end of the year, depending on the regulatory environment of where the Autonomous Vehicle Act stands in the UK, and riding in a Waymo and adding it to the list of cities that ridden in a Waymo. And I think Waymo is going to be very good for the UK's economy. And let's see what happens in the election, and if the local elections accelerate or decelerate the adoption of autonomy in the United Kingdom.
Where were the waves, Grayson? I didn't see any. I was all over the city, various neighborhoods, did a great, different food tours and theater district, didn't see one wave. Where are they?
They're out by the Victoria and Albert Museum, over by Wave's headquarters.
I think I was over in that general area, didn't see anything. It's all Waymo.
That raises the whole question about blending in versus being a Waymo.
Blending into an average person, but I had my Inspector Clouseau hat on, Grayson, and put it on, and I was carefully watching. I wasn't saying I was just sitting on the strip. There were times I was tired. I think I walked probably about 7 to 8 miles a day with, scoping out. I had my monocle on, sat on some benches, just watched the cars go by, waiting, hoping, getting ready to bring my phone out to promote Wave in London. Didn't see one.
That's not good. That's not good.
This is why we travel, Grayson. This is why we travel. This is to look to see, what's going on in these markets.
That's true. And I travel with the hat. When I was scoping out the Miami Depot and way, my wife goes, "You're putting the hat on?" "Oh yeah, I got to put the hat on." And we got to get you a matching inspector hat so you can rock it in the field.
I mean, I could list so many different cars that I've been in. It's just kind of amazing that I've never sat or seen a Wave vehicle yet. Anyway, let's go back to the U.S. and talk about Waymo in Miami. I guess they're expanding. While we can't find a Wave in London, Waymo is expanding to Miami Beach. So now it's, what is it, Brickell? Is that how you pronounce it? And the beaches? 91 square miles in Florida. Your state, your home state. Florida men are watching these Waymos drive back and forth.
It's awesome. So Waymo has now conquered the causeway, getting to the beaches. And it's interesting, if you look at the map, as you clearly articulated, 91 square miles. Right up to the map is MIA, Miami International Airport. So I think it's just a matter of time until that goes. But then it's getting up to Aventura. And if you start going west, you run into Miami Gardens. And for those individuals not familiar with Florida geography, why is that important? That's Hard Rock Stadium, F1, Dolphins, concerts, all happens there. It's just a matter of time until Waymo expands to Hard Rock. And that's going to get really interesting. And the best part, I got notified of this expansion, Walt, while riding in a Waymo. I got little palm trees. Waymo now goes to Miami Beach. Would you like to go? And I felt like writing back, I'm in Silicon Valley. I'm not in Miami today. But it was a cool coincidence.
Well, if you were in a Tesla FSD, they could take you to Miami, but not Waymo quite yet. But I'm happy to hear that that's happening. And given that Florida is a state that, says they're open for business, and unlike Governor Hochul in New York, who says they're open for business and then shuts it down after getting pressure from the Teamsters, Florida actually is open for business. I think. When are they going to open the airport, Grayson? When are we going to see Waymos coming in and out of? I mean, Miami might be a little crazy. Can we at least get something in like the West Palm or Fort Lauderdale airports?
We can't not touch this issue in New York. They want to ban AI now for engineering, for specialties if they don't have a license in New York. I mean, what's next, Walt?
Hey, we're talking about Florida now. Leave New York alone. Let's talk about Florida.
No. Next thing you know, they're gonna ban pizza the way that they're going. What's next?
Pizza. Don't bring up pizza.
So now let's go from the nanny state to the Sunshine State and just look at the amount of tax revenue and individuals that are fleeing out of New York down to Florida. I'll make a prediction. Waymo will begin limited operations at the Miami International Airport by May.
Okay. If you're open for business, make it April. That's my challenge to Florida men everywhere, and women. But Florida man is the thing, right? If you're open for business, April. Let's go, Florida. Prove yourself.
The depot's not ready.
Oh. So it's not politics. It's Waymo getting their act together.
It's a permitting process. As you saw, I don't know if you saw last week because you've been very busy walking around London. Jeff Bezos gave a great talk at a conference. I'm not sure which one it was, about how Miami permitting should be done in seconds and use AI. So the permitting process in Miami, as Mr. Bezos clearly pointed out, is very slow. So I'm going to say by May, fully operational at MIA. And then I have to correct you. I'm going to pull my own version of Rich Greenfield. You called it the Palm Beach International Airport, PBI. No. It is now the DJT Airport, the Donald Trump International Airport.
Did they really rename the airport?
Yes, they did. And that's about 3 miles from Mar-a-Lago. So it is the DJT Airport. Well, you got to get your facts straight here.
So can I get on a flight at the DJT Airport and fly over the Gulf of America and land in, somehow take a circuitous route maybe to get to Austin and then get in my Tesla Robotaxi without a driver? Is that a possibility?
No, but it is possible to go from the DJT Airport to HOU George Bush. So you get two presidents connecting with her and ride in a Waymo in Houston so you can connect to Houston.
Well, that's definitely good to hear. Anything else in terms of Waymo in Florida? And I guess can you remind me who is Waymo's partner in Florida in terms of the logistics?
Right now, Waymo has only disclosed the partner for Miami. The partner for Miami is Move.io. We do not know Waymo's partner for Orlando, which is open limited riders, and we also do not know Waymo's partner for Tampa, which is on their expansion roadmap. And staying on the expansion roadmap theme of Waymo, I'll tease this to the audience. Waymo has actively been upping their lobbying efforts across the globe. So this expansion is getting real.
So before we go on to the lobbying and kind of the battles that may be existing and new opponents that Waymo is facing, which we touched upon last week on Autonomy Markets, I mean, Waymo's kind of been quiet on the partner front, right? So let's put platform aside for a second. Is it possible that there's an ongoing pivot at Waymo where rather than bother partnering with more Avis or Move or Avomo or FlexDrive, that they're going to start building up more and more cities on their own and take that capital intensity? Because that is certainly not what they have indicated in the past. Or do they just like think that it's not important enough to talk about as they continue to announce more and more markets?
Well, there's a couple factors to look in this. One, Waymo has a new CFO, so we don't know what that individual's capital strategy is. We haven't have a public statement from him. Secondly, Alphabet has one of the strongest real estate arms. Perhaps they're leveraging Alphabet's strategic real estate arm for that. Or perhaps that they're looking at building it in-house. I think there's a lot of changes that could be possibly occurring there, because you're right. Because remember, in the old days, you would say Waymo's announcing insert your favorite market here, and our fleet management partner is insert your favorite fleet management partner here. That's not happening anymore. And the reason we found out about Move, one, it wasn't the release, but then there was a LinkedIn post about a month ago from one of the Move executives talking about it. And we have not gotten a LinkedIn post from a Move executive or any post on X from a Move executive for these other markets. So perhaps Waymo's testing it in-house. We don't know, but to me, it seems like there's a lot of moving parts, and it seems like Waymo, I would say, is in the experimenting phase. And if we add on 3, 4, 5 markets and see no partner, I think that's a clear sign that the CFO is implementing a different strategy.
Well, we'll just have to watch. Now, let's shift to Virginia, a little bit further north, but still south of the Mason-Dixon line. The Virginia House is putting off a vote to allow fully autonomous vehicles until next year, rather than acting on it now. So what is going on there?
There's a fight. And the fight is not between organized labor in the autonomous vehicle industry. The fight's between Waymo and the industry. And I want to read a quote here that was given to a local news channel in Richmond. It was WWB12 Richmond. Waymo gave the following quote. I want to read this here for you verbatim. And quote, "We are advocating in support of SB 670 and appreciate Senator Solom's leadership on this issue. If the proposal becomes law, Waymo would be able to bring its fully autonomous ride-hailing service to Virginia. However, the proposal is currently in limbo for this session due to opposition from other automated vehicle companies and automotive manufacturers, jeopardizing safer roads and more accessible transportation for all Virginians." That is a very pointed statement.
It's astounding that they said automated vehicle companies. Why would an automated vehicle company want to basically throw a monkey wrench in the works of allowing autonomous vehicles? That makes no sense.
Perhaps there is language in the bill that other companies didn't like. Again, that's pure speculation. But the fact that in a public statement to a local news channel, Waymo is calling out the automotive industry and the AV industry. And can we just talk about, for the record, automated vehicle? It's an autonomous vehicle company. Automated is for regulatory. It's autonomous.
Yeah, I mean, so Waymo said this as a quote. I don't know. Maybe they're meaning some type of different company. I think we're going to need more clarification on what that means. If it is autonomous vehicle companies, then like the only reason that would happen is if you were a company that's not ready to go and you want to delay it so that you can launch in the market. But I think that's kind of foolish, because like, look, as an industry, you want to get all these barriers down and get this product out there. I'm not sure what autonomous company. This makes no sense. So we need Waymo. This literally makes no sense. So I think we need Waymo or WWBT to do a little bit more work and help us understand who exactly is the problem here.
How about this? I'll take this one step further to our friends at Waymo that listen. On behalf of Walt and I would love to invite you on Autonomy Markets to discuss this issue if you're open to it and let us hear it right from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to call out an individual company, but we got to figure it out one way or another. We'll find out.
We'll find out and we'll continue to follow it. You know what else we continue to follow, Walt, which just gets more and more interesting by the day? The spin machine inside of autonomous vehicle companies. It was in overdrive this week.
I mean, you want to keep the momentum up, Grayson. Sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. You know, and T-Mobile was talking about having the best network before they actually built the best network, or at least a better network. So, you know, I respect that. But I guess in this case, you're referring to Waabi, because this one I noticed on my Twitter feed, and I'm like, is that new news? Like, what? This seems weird that they were posting this, or I guess, you know, impressive, some might say. Quote, we are embarking on a significant partnership with Uber. Everyone knew that already, but I guess this is just an advertisement to the mass market. So they're embarking on a significant partnership with Uber to deploy 25,000 or more Waabi driver-powered robotaxis on the Uber platform, an unprecedented opportunity to scale autonomous transportation. I mean, look, it's also like not even mentioned anything about the trucking. So this is just like a full kind of rebranding publicly to people to get them excited about the 25,000. I'm sure Uber wants them to do this as well, right? To have the consumers know that, hey, don't forget about Uber. We're going to be delivering you autonomy at some point in the future. Obviously, was there any dates associated with this? Like, what was the meat behind this tweet that you could tell, Grayson?
There was no meat. There was no clarification on who the OEM is. There's no clarification on who will own the asset. There's no clarification on who will manage the asset. And more importantly, there was no clarification on strategy. Waabi today is not operating a driver-out commercial autonomous trucking service, and yet you're producing robotaxis. Is the company pivoting from trucks to robotaxis? And then, as you and I talk about, and I brought this up during my Valley trip, individuals couldn't understand it. Who owns the asset? Who manages the asset? How does all that work? There's no substance to it. And I even asked on X very politely, crickets, crickets, crickets.
You know, now that you mention it, like you think about it, if you think of the hard work that Nuro put into developing their technology, right? The money they spent, the money raised, you know, developing a new partnership with Lucid and Uber, you know, in order to commit to, you know, which Uber will own, you know, whatever the number of vehicles that they had, 20,000, I forget the exact number, over X number of years, very specific. So for them, there's like specifics and numbers, and like for this company to put out those numbers, 25,000, like to the casual observer, they'd be like, oh, you know, whatever, Nuro's got their 20,000 and like they have their 25,000. It's not the same, right? There's no actual there in terms of a OEM partner and a timeline. Am I missing something, or is that, like, what am I missing? Is there an OEM partner that they're just not announcing, or are they just basically saying like at some point in the future we're going to do 25,000, even though we actually haven't signed an actual OEM to do this?
I don't mean to go down a rabbit hole with you. Waabi has an OEM deal on the truck side with Volvo. So that's the truck side. There is a public relationship.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the cars here. Where are the 25,000 cars? Are you going to make your own car? Is Waabi making its own car? So what's the car? So what's the car? Maybe you should have been polite in your response. On what wheels? How about this? What wheel are you going to use? Can we at least get a tire manufacturer?
No pun intended on that. And furthermore, you know this, if you go on the Reddit self-driving cars, anytime somebody sees a photo of something, they post it on there, they post it on X. We do not have a photo of Waabi even testing a car anywhere in Toronto, United States, anywhere. There is no even photos circulating.
Look, I've seen and spoke with Raquel, CEO at Waabi, at CES. Super smart person as far as I can tell. Everyone's got a great respect for her. I'd love to actually spend more time and understand what they're doing. Especially like, I'm not sure you can put out a tweet like that if you don't actually have an OEM deal, but whatever, bygones. Now, there is a company that is making progress that probably doesn't do enough PR for themselves, and that's Glydways. And now Glydways is not, these things aren't going to be driving around, robotaxi around. This is like, you know, basically replacing trams, right? This is dedicated point to point. They're going to create their own separate lane. The real use case here, frankly, is economies that can't afford to build like new trains, like or spend $1 million on a bus, right? And they want to move a lot of people from point A to point B. With that said, they're progressing in San Jose. They recently broke ground in Atlanta for their airport. Now I'm seeing they're involved in a trial at Newark Airport in New York. And again, it's like, a dedicated, it's that kind of toaster oven looking thing that Grayson in earlier episodes didn't like. I happen to like. It's in its own dedicated lane. In some cases, if you have to lift it up like a tram, because it's not this big, heavy train, it's a lot cheaper to do it. The bidding process is like an infrastructure type project where you've got construction companies that are like laying cement. It's a completely different business model. It is an autonomous business model. It is something that will impact the rideshare market from moving people from point A to point B. And it is a company that's funded and executing and signing up contracts and getting deals done. And in the US, where the opportunity is truly global. So this is kind of our pseudo foreign autonomy desk. But, I think Glydways, we need to spend more time highlighting kind of the progress that they're making on a global basis, because it's definitely a facet of autonomy that's going to be very important.
Mark Seeger has done a wonderful job operating the company. And for those individuals who want to learn more about Glydways, Mark, their co-founder and co-CEO, has been on the Road to Autonomy podcast. So I highly recommend you check that out. And if you look at the progress that they've made in Atlanta, the progress they're making in San Jose, and the progress they're making overseas, I've got to ask you the big question, Walt. Why didn't LAX hire Glydways? Billions of dollars spent. They're not even going to get there for the World Cup qualifying matches.
I mean, every time I have to drive on the Van Wyck to get to JFK, and I see that thing above me, I'm like, oh, this is literally the perfect spot for Glydways. They can Glydways me. How about this? Glydways me out of the JFK mess to an area where I can hop in my Waymo and take me home. That's like, it could be a hybrid system there. Don't even bring all the individual Waymos down the Van Wyck. Just take it out. By the way, to flip on, I know people, sometimes don't like Tesla. My Tesla FSD handles the Van Wyck beautifully. Like, that is mayhem if anyone's ever been on that road. And I just sit back, no stress, put it on Mad Max mode. You have to put it on Mad Max mode. You cannot be in chill mode when you're on the Van Wyck going to JFK. It worked perfect. Coming out to London, parked in JFK, hit the button from my garage to the garage at JFK. Perfect.
When do we get a Mad Walt mode?
I will say that some of these more recent softwares, I think they've stepped back. It's kind of weird. It feels like they step back, and then all of a sudden, like if you hit the gas pedal to accelerate a little bit, then it's like, oh, it kind of reminds Mad Max what he should really be, and then it starts going bonkers. Then it's like 80 miles an hour or whatever. We need a step above Mad Max. All right, let's go to the true foreign autonomy desk. What do we have this week, Grayson?
The foreign autonomy desk is taking us to Germany. We had an announcement from Moya VW that they, by the end of the year, will produce 500 of the ID Buzz autonomous vans that will be coming off for Moya service and the line in Germany. The self-driving technology is powered by Mobileye, so that's where we're going this week. We're covering a little bit of Mobileye.
Nice.
And we'll see, and those vehicles are currently operating in Austin. Perhaps that we'll be able to get a ride in one finally. VW, we know you listen. I've asked many times, very politely. This time I'll ask again. Pretty please, may we go for a ride in the VW vehicle in Austin, because that brings us to next week. Well, what do we need to look for?
But by the way, we may not have gotten a ride in the VW ID, but at least when we were in Austin, we saw the VW ID. Because I think you're referring back to London, where I didn't see a wave. In Austin, we see them. Maybe we'll just have to jump in front of them and see if we can get inside. But yes, we are putting our cowboy hats on, heading down to Texas and doing some more trip. This is this is a big year. 26 is a big year, so there's going to be a lot of miles on the road. Hopefully, most of the time with no hands on the wheel.
No hands on the wheel. It is a big thing. We will not jump in front of the vehicles. And for individuals that want to be spooked, the BBC put out a documentary on YouTube, unfortunately, of a group of renegade individuals that are going around San Francisco vandalizing and damaging Waymos. And according to them, and I'm not a lawyer, they said it's perfectly within the law to damage and disable a Waymo. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but the BBC piece was interesting of what's happening. The future is bright. The future is autonomous. The future is scaling autonomy and seeing it on public roads. Walt, Until next week.